I am like a very big advocate for like a holistic healing and like natural remedies.
Yeah.
So I think like if you could just implement like supplementation, or even just eating more whole foods versus like processed foods, like you will feel a difference, and cutting out alcohol, you'll feel a difference. Like I never knew how badly it was affecting me until I rid myself of it.
Really?
And then I saw myself in contrast, like, oh, before and after. I'm like, whoa, like mentally sharp. But another thing I would advise is like sometimes we're easy to brush things off. Like I was very much so like that, like guilty of brushing off being tired easily, having certain like mood swings or like anything that feels abnormal could be like an indicator, because I think ultimately our bodies are built to like want to function normally. So like if you feel like anything's off, like no harm in getting checked. I think
Yeah.
that's a major step that I think is being like missed.
Hey guys, welcome back to Guys That Listen. I'm Peter, and we have our special guest, Lori, on the podcast today.
Hi guys, I made it.
Yeah, tell them about yourself.
Well, my name is Lori. I adopted that nickname like in my 20s.
Oh,
my
wow.
my actual government name is Lorraine.
Oh, really?
But I felt like it didn't fit my vibe.
I can kind of see that.
I would always get teased like when I was little. Like they'd be like, "Oh, Lorraine is such an old lady name." So I chose not to go by that. Just because I feel like I have more of like a youthful nature. I wanted my name to match because I feel like a name is like very, it's something you're gonna go by forever.
It's true. I actually picked my name too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Look at us already finding
Yeah.
stuff in common.
I know.
Okay.
I picked my name for a different reason than yours, but growing up in like the 90s, my Vietnamese name, my birth name is Jung.
Young.
Yeah, and it's very hard to pronounce. And
Yeah.
you can imagine as adults that are more familiar with different kind of names, like as kids, they don't know.
butchered.
Yeah, butchered.
Goodbye.
Yeah, even the teachers butchered it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I was like 4. My mom was like, "Oh, do you want to change your name to something?" And during that time, like my favorite book was like Peter Rabbit.
Oh my God, that was such a thing back then. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, "Oh, Peter,"
Oh,
and
that's
then,
cool.
Yeah. So that's why it was. My name is Peter now, and it's like legal, but yeah, my birth name is Young.
Wow. Okay, well, my birth name is Lorraine. I changed it. I didn't come as early to like the realization that I wanted to change it
Yeah.
until like I was 20 or 21. But essentially, I feel like I identify myself as like an artist. So, of course, daughter, friend. But I think my whole life, I always felt inclined and connected to art because I think I was shy when I was younger. So I kind of used art to like bridge the gap between me and people.
Oh,
So like I think it encompasses everything because I feel like art is just free flowing. So I feel like as a person, I feel like that's kind of how I am. Like I wanted to do real estate like when I was 18. So I got
what?
my
Really?
real estate license. I still have it. I just don't practice.
18? That's so young to get into real estate.
Yeah,
That's wild.
yeah.
How'd you decide you
My
wanted to be a
mom
realtor?
is a realtor.
Oh, okay.
And she was like, she would always take me to her open houses and she'd be like, look how easy my job is, and she'd be like, it's so glamorous. Like, I get to conversate with people and she's really social. So that was like very easy for her. She's also like great at directing people. So again, natural for her. But again, me being like more free flowing and kind of like, oh, no pressure, I quickly realized like it wasn't for me, but she did make it seem like amazing,
Very glamorous.
Yeah.
Like selling sunset.
Yeah. And also like, I liked that she had the freedom to be around, like
that's
she
true.
was an entrepreneur. And so like, if I ever needed her, she was there. And for some reason, like she still had time to like take care of my grandparents.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like she did so much. And I was just like, okay, like that's what I should do.
Yeah.
But we're different.
You said you did a lot of art growing up. What kind of
Yeah.
art?
I think my earliest memories of like, when people talk about like what they did when they were younger, like I really was that kid drawing on the walls
Oh, really?
when I was little. Like, and for some reason my parents wouldn't reprimand me. They were always like so supportive, like, oh, look at her go. Like,
whoa, really?
little Picasso. But yeah, so I started drawing like younger, maybe like kindergarten, when you're like learning how to do stuff, be
Yeah.
more coordinated. And it just kind of like flourished from there. Like drawing turned to painting, and then painting turned to like more mixed media things. So like even in high school, I was like painting murals.
Oh, wow.
And like big scale things. Like I always wanted to like do more. So I kind of thought I'd be like more visually like inclined now, but then I turned to music, which I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, free flowing, just I feel like if I think about myself just like as a entity, I feel like it's art, like whatever that means.
I love that you said that because I feel like with a lot of people nowadays, they like to kind of pigeonhole themselves into one creative aspect. Like, oh, I'm a painter, or I'm a DJ, or I'm a guitarist, or I'm a muralist. Like, and that's what they do, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I think creative people just have to create. Like
it
doesn't really matter what medium almost. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's some that like stand out more, right? Some that you resonate with more, but
Yeah.
like why pigeonhole yourself into like one thing?
True.
And also you go through phases in life, right?
It's true. Like every time I used to create a piece, it would be like some form of like self-expression, of course, because I couldn't like really verbalize it as well. And then like, let's say I'm done with that phase of my life, I literally would give the painting away. Like
Wow.
I'd be like, okay, I'm done. Like I created for the sake of creating. And also like releasing that part of myself or like my thought process or my emotion. And then once that's done, I just let it go.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's like true artistry almost. It's like you don't do it for anyone but yourself. I think that's kind of the thing that's a little bit more convoluted now is that people, living in a day of social media,
100%.
like sometimes people do art for the wrong reasons.
I think so too. And I think that like translates to me as like a DJ. I feel like I was like inspired by a girl DJ when I was like 15.
Oh, really? Who?
Her name was DJ Mia. She was on America's Best Dance Crew.
Oh, really?
And I was like, look at her go.
Which crew?
Oh, no, she was just like the resident DJ for the show.
Oh, for the
Like for a
show.
couple seasons.
Oh, shit.
And I used to go to tapings. Like when I was in high school.
I tried to go to one. I could not go to
My
any of the.
God. I went to like season 1 and season 2. Somehow
shit.
I kept getting tickets. And
What
so
season 1? It was like Jabberwockies?
Jabberwockies.
And then season 2
is oh my God, who was season 2? But it was a season with like So Real
it Quest Crew or
and
something?
like Haba Modern was on there too.
Yeah. I remember that.
Quest Crew was season 3, but why can't I think of the one? Anyways, it was a blur. Wow, I lost my train of thought there. I was like stuck in a core memory. Sorry.
No, I saw the thoughts go
I was
through
like,
your head.
where did I go?
I think you were talking about music and the inspiration.
Oh, yes.
DJ.
So DJ Mia, she was on America's Best Dance Crew. And I was just like so enamored by her, first of all, because it was like very male saturated at the time.
Yeah.
Thankfully now, like, there's more female DJs, including myself. Sorry, I forgot to
Representation
mention
right
that.
there.
Yeah. I got inspired by her like pretty young. And I think in relation to what we were talking about, it's always been about like learning the craft, mastering the craft, and like it more being so about the art for me. So I think when I see like, things being done for the wrong reasons in the industry, I think it definitely doesn't resonate with me. So I tend to like, it's really hard for me to like be inauthentic with it. I choose to like, or I guess I naturally just gravitate towards people who I feel like are also like in their element, doing it for the right reason, which it's probably not the most popular thing to do.
Yeah,
but,
I can see that. All right. Not to talk shit or anything, but
yeah.
What do you see within DJing that's being done for the wrong reasons? Or what reasons would those be?
I think it's not wrong for people to be opportunistic. But I think I see a lot of like connections being made just for the sake of like, oh, this person will get me here, or like this person will give me this type of exposure, versus like, hey, I really like this person. I want to be around them. I want to know what they're doing. I want to be part of it. I feel like it's like, oh, let me be part of it so I could get this type of exposure for myself.
Move
or
up the
like,
ladder?
yeah. And I think that bothers me.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I mean, I understand it too from like a business standpoint, right? But also, like, you gotta do it with some kind of like authenticity, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I think the people who form connections with people just purely to move up the ladder and they actually don't even like the person. It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's like, that means they literally can compartmentalize like their like morality and personality.
They can do anything.
Yeah. And I think I just struggle with that like very deeply. Like, I think like if I meet someone and I really like what they're about, then I'm like really there, you know?
Yeah.
And like, it's just so hard for me to like even like picture myself in that situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're not like that, because it is hard too from like a coordinator's standpoint. It's hard for me too, you know, because doing events, sometimes there are DJs that you love working with. They play great music, and there's some DJs that you don't really care for as much.
True.
Yeah, but they bring a crowd.
You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
You gotta, like, damn, I really don't fuck with you, but
right.
I mean, business
like
standpoint,
money wise,
it's a weird thing, So I struggle with that too. You know what I mean? But I actually don't even work with people who I don't like. It's maybe like I don't like as much. Like I still like the person, but I'm like, I'd rather have this person here because I think they'd be a better fit as far as like ambiance, like the sound, the vibe, but this person might bring in better numbers. And this is kind of what we
I
need.
know. I think unfortunately that's like a reality that we all have to like face and deal with, is like, I mean, there's art, right? And there's people that you like, but there's also like, I gotta eat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get
that.
Hard. I was like that too with photography. For a while, I was doing when I started, I was just doing photography that I love doing, and things that piqued my interest. Well, when I first started, it was just really, to be honest, just like copying certain people, because that's just how I learned. I was like, do I like this style? Like, I would try it. Looks kind of like this. Kind of.
Yeah.
And I'll try something else. I'm like, oh, I actually do like this. And then it became, eventually it became about like, you get into that social media suck, you know what I mean? Where it's like, it becomes about the algorithm, like
100%
exposure and stuff that. Yeah. And I found myself shooting things to just appeal to what's in at the time, you know? And I found myself very unhappy. I was like, oh shit, like, I don't even like these fucking pictures, but I'll post it because it's popular.
Right.
And then eventually I just stopped like
it just
altogether.
Eats away at your soul, like slowly. You're like, I can't even, but I get what you mean. I think for me, I like went through that many times. Like, I feel like I've literally lived like 10 lifetimes within my one lifetime.
Yeah.
Just because I think I've tried like so many different avenues. And I think I did them all because I thought someone else would like it. Like real estate, I thought, oh, good idea. Like, my mom would be happy. And then like just recently I thought maybe I should go to a dental hygienist because my dad's a dentist. I know. And then I kept finding myself like doing that, like, what do they like? Like, what's working for them? But then I never thought to like sit with myself and be like, okay, it doesn't seem like that is in alignment with me, and I think it's like the hardest thing to do. But yeah, like at some point I went to school for like special effects makeup.
Oh, wow.
I finished that. And then like DJing,
Yeah.
And then like now I'm going back to school. I just feel like, yeah, it's just hard to pick one lane when you feel like do I want to appeal to the mass or to myself, you know, but also I need to make money too.
Yeah. There's all these things tugging at you, right? I think for me, as a person that's like tried a lot of things, I've worked a lot of fucking jobs. Like I've had over like 30 jobs, right? So it's a lot. And you know, I grew up thinking that, oh, actually I don't know what the hell I want to do.
For real.
You know, certain people, they're so adamant that they know like since the very beginning without even trying these jobs out. And it was only for me only until like I tried out so many that I have a better, like a clearer picture of like what I want to do and where I want to go. You know, because I think it's just life, right? Like you grow older and you know your mindset changes and you experience things, and that you know shifts and shapes you however it does, right? So it's like, why pigeonhole yourself into like one thing, especially people who think about it when they're younger, because like what's the question that you get a lot when you're younger?
Like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Like, I just got here.
Yeah, like, damn, I just got out of the womb. Like, what the hell are you asking?
That's a little too serious for me, you know?
Exactly. And then once you answer that, right, and then they put you on track to do that. And it's like, okay, now, so you pick your college that you go to for what you want to do, right?
Right.
And then you graduate and you decide if you want to pursue your master's or your PhD, if that's what the career needs, right? And then you finally get into the real world of doing it, actually experiencing that, and not just thinking of it like figuratively, like, oh I want to be a cop, but it's like, what the hell does it mean to be a cop? And then you're out there and you're like, oh shit,
I don't know about that.
This is not for me. And it's like, oh shit, I'm also like in debt, and I put so much time to doing this. Like,
you're preaching to the choir right now.
Is that how you feel right now?
I think also I went to school at FITM.
Oh shit! Damn, you really have.
I really feel like I've done so many things. And I went to school for graphic design there.
Oh wow!
Because I felt like, oh okay, like it's appealing to my artistic side, whatever. And it didn't pan out. Like at that time, I had just moved from Bakersfield, which is a very small town, very non-diverse. And so like when I got here, I was like, it's like Disneyland for adults, you know, like I was like overstimulated like right off the bat. And I lived in downtown LA, so I could be near
super stimulated.
Like FITM. And I didn't end up going through it because I started import modeling.
Really? Wow. Holy cow.
At like 20, it was like 23, 22. And then I dropped out.
So you started import modeling, and then you dropped out of FITM.
I dropped out. My import model name was Lori Lynn.
Oh, okay. Why Lori Lynn?
I think at the time, like, well, Lorraine was too long. So that was like pretty much what I needed to catapult me into like, you know, kind of dropping the rest of it.
Yeah.
And like, I think Lynn came from like Linsanity.
Oh, really? During that time? Jeremy Lynn inspired you? I thought it was going to be like a female.
No. I was like, also, you know how we were talking about like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
When I was like in kindergarten, everyone's like, I want to be a mom, a ballerina, or like doctor or something. And I was like, I want to be an NBA player, like not in the WNBA. I was like, bring me to the NBA.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
I know. So like, I can't really follow basketball as well as I would like to now, but when I was little, I was a fan. So I guess that still translated when I was like in my early 20s. I was like, Jeremy Lin's doing it, you know? Like,
yeah, it's hype. It was hype. Insanity was hype during that time, for sure.
I don't know why. I think too, I have like Chinese in my family line. So I felt like I wanted to play more onto that because it was like more exotic or whatever.
Yeah.
But well, yeah, it was a time. But I dropped out. So then that's why you were saying like, you know, I think you talked about like being in debt.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I am still paying off like me dropping out of it. And yeah, it's just so sad how like things turn out that way. Like society isn't set up for you to try things and like really figure it out, you know?
Yeah. I agree. I have a cousin. He's a doctor. I forgot what kind of doctor he is. I haven't caught up with him in years.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's been a while since I caught up with him,
I'm
and
just kidding.
we don't talk about work because he works way too much, right?
Yeah.
But he was telling me he finished up in his 30s, and he was telling me about people who were in his class who were like, oh shit, like now that I'm going into residency and doing all these things, like I don't think this is for me.
Yeah.
But he's also like, damn, you're
I'm
like
already deep in
$400,000 in debt. Where are you gonna go work? You know, you
know.
cannot pay back that debt. So they just tough it through, become doctors, and they're miserable.
Yeah.
But they can't leave because they can't pay off the bills doing anything else. Like that's
No.
crazy.
It is crazy. And I think I was just too young and foolish to even like think about powering through it. Like I felt like, oh, like it's so cool to be, you know, getting all this attention and like this could set me up to be like, you know, big and do something else. And I was really like selling the dream to myself enough that I was confident to like leave FITM, which terrible idea. Like,
Really? Do you wish you would have stuck it through?
I think so. But I think unfortunately, I'm just not built that way in terms of like, or at least at that time, like my mentality was not in a place where I felt like I was even thinking of being stable. You know,
yeah.
I was just like having fun, literally like enjoying living outside of Bakersfield for once, having freedom, like getting noticed. Like I think in Bakersfield, I always wanted to be white.
Oh, really? Can you explain what you mean by that?
I think it's because I was like one of the only Asian kids like in my classes growing up.
Oh, wow.
It was predominantly like white, predominantly like Hispanic. And, you know, it's already hard being young and trying to figure it out and like trying to fit in. And I think I had an even harder time just because I was only Asian. So I was like different, you know, and there was like hardly any other races there either. So I didn't have anyone. And in high school, my principal would be like, I've been there for years, right? Like everyone in the office knows who I am, being like one of the only Asians from here.
Oh shit, it's Lorraine.
Like, I know she's here. She's late again. And my principal would come up and be like, "Oh, your host parents are here," thinking I'm like a foreign exchange student.
No way.
Dead ass.
What?
Dead ass.
That's racist as fuck.
I'm scarred for life. Still, obviously, I'm 31. I'm still thinking about how he thought I was like a host student. But yeah, so I think coming from that background, from then going to downtown LA where it's extremely diverse, it's like a melting pot of like so many different cultures, and like that being celebrated, I was like, wow, like let me just live in it, you know? And I think that distracted me like extremely to the point where I just like I couldn't even hang with school.
I can see that because you go from Bakersfield where you feel like there's not too many options.
Right.
There's only so many directions you could take your life and your career. And then you go to downtown LA where there's like endless possibilities. So many different people, and your mind opens up and you're like, what the hell do I do? I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this.
Seriously. And like, so that opportunity led me to working with Justin Lin, who directed Fast and the Furious.
Oh, Justin Lin.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
And then I
Lin.
I know. I did a project with Sung Kang. It was like for his YouTube channel.
Oh, shit.
I think it was called like Car Discussions with Sung Kang. Please don't look it up. Anyway.
Really? Yeah, please don't look it up, guys.
But yeah, so at the time I was like, do I want to do this? Do I want to? So yeah. But again, I feel like I don't have any regrets because at the end of the day, like I don't think if I had not gone through that, I would be who I am now, where I am now, with the ideals that I have now. And honestly, like I think if I were a parent, I would hate to like stifle my children. Like, you know, I would want them to feel free to like make mistakes and explore and like, you know, still be supportive at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be my approach too. Just like trying a lot of different things and seeing where it pans out. Because, you know, there's this saying that there's not really a better thing for you because what you do is the only thing that you could do.
Yeah.
Right? So you can think of all these other options, but the direction you take, that's it. You can't go back. You know, so
Right.
to say that you know better because like, yeah, you made that decision.
Right.
It's kind of arrogant because it already played out the way it did. Like, how do you know down the line because of all these experiences, you dropping out of FITM, you pursuing import modeling, DJing, you know, that it doesn't make you the person that you end up like ultimately being happy being,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I think like growing up, I definitely thought, oh, like, because my parents are super traditional. I mean, I think it's common in like Asian culture to like have traditional parents that think like, oh, you got to do this, this, this. This is like the roadmap, you know, like it's easy, do it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm lucky, even though I do have traditional parents, they have always been supportive of me. But dude, I can't with myself.
What?
Every time I start going somewhere, I have like ADHD brain,
Oh,
and then it's like, goodbye.
No, I feel you. I'm the exact same way.
Like, thankfully, they didn't like castrate me for like all the mistakes I've done.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm so lucky, like, honestly, to still be like so loved and supported no matter what.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I have the opposite, like in certain ways. Like my parents are traditional and they're unsupportive. So it's like very different.
I think that's like the more common
Yeah.
thing, which that's why I do feel like they're like unicorns in a way. There are things that they're definitely like not about. Like me getting tattoos, my dad was like, that's my worst nightmare. But like,
really?
I'm like the only one with the most tattoos in my family.
Yeah.
And then like they're very religious. So like anytime I ever like lived with a significant other, my mom would be like, you know, shame. You got to be getting
not
married.
married.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So was it, now that you mentioned that your parents are highly religious, was it hard dating when you were growing up? Especially when you're from Bakersfield.
Yes, I think it was. But like, I think I remained open with them, which is very difficult.
What do you mean open? Like, do you actually tell them about everything? Like, oh,
Not like everything.
Yeah. I mean,
there came a point where I would get in trouble and then I would have to tell them everything.
You're forced to.
Yeah, I'm like
so eventually
forced
you
to.
did, yeah.
I would be like, oh, hey, mom, I have a crush on this guy or like whatever.
That's pretty open.
Yeah, that's open.
Yeah.
And I think that made them come to terms with the idea of like me dating earlier. But like, does my mom wish that I married like every boyfriend that I had? Probably. Like,
really?
Yeah, like I think she is like very traditional and religious in a sense that like her sole belief in like dating is like, okay, get married, you know? So I don't think it was difficult for me, probably more difficult for my elder siblings because I'm the youngest. So they like broke
Paved
the
the way.
floodgates. Yeah. They like paved the way and, you know, they were busy with them and dealing with them, spent all their energy on disciplining them.
Yeah.
And so
The older siblings broke your parents down.
100%. And so shout out to them. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I think if there's any like benefit to having an older sibling, it is definitely that.
Yeah.
Like having them pave the way. I'm the oldest, so I got in trouble for everything. Even stuff that had nothing to do with me. Like if my younger siblings did something wrong, it's like, it's your fault.
You were watching that.
You're the reason why.
Yeah.
You influenced them
Yeah,
to do this.
yeah.
I'm like, shit.
You're like, was I?
Yeah, I mean,
You're like being gaslighted as a child.
I know. I'm like, what the heck?
You're like, I didn't even know I did that.
Exactly.
Oh,
But,
man.
I mean, growing up with parents like that, that's like so involved in your life, especially strict Asian parents, because they want to know everything.
Everything.
Right.
Bruh.
But at least you had siblings to kind of pave the way. Do you feel like that they were more understanding because you were actually even open with them? Like when you start talking about dating.
I think so. I feel like the highest vibration is authenticity. So I feel like if I came from a place where like I'm being like, hey, here's the deal. I like this guy. He likes me back. I think my mom, I never talked about this with my dad. It was so like, you know, the
Really?
open relationship was with my mom. My dad, very strict. Also, he's like man of few words, so he would
Oh.
shoot daggers like at me, like with his eyes. I'd be like, I'm in
Oh,
trouble.
really?
I can't stand it.
Is he the one you're like, oh God, I really don't want to have to talk
Yes.
to him about this, really.
Yes. But also, I just love him so much. I hate to disappoint him in any way, even as a kid. Even if he was quiet, I was just like, he always made me nervous. But I would tell my mom everything. I'd be like,
Really?
okay, you tell dad. Bye.
That's crazy. I feel like my pops is very similar too. Man of very few words. I think that's a lot of like
The
Asian
dads.
you
Yeah.
know, and very similar. Like he didn't really have to do too much. Like he would stare at me. I'm like, fuck. Like,
I'm
what
dead.
did I do? See, the only thing was that my parents are divorced, so I didn't really have like I can't be like, oh, I'll tell mom will tell dad.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
They're split, so like I had to
You
tell
had
them
to tell them
both
both.
individually
and
And
feel
it's-
their wrath.
Yeah, because
Oh,
you
man.
talked about like tattoos, like
Yeah.
So my parents don't like tattoos.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
typical Asian parents, no piercing, stuff like that. So when I was younger, I had like lip piercing. I remember like having
mom
to, yeah, my mom
probably.
fucking freaked.
She's like, pull that out.
She started crying. I was
Oh,
like,
no.
damn. She started crying. My dad didn't cry. He was just pissed. He was like, you look like do you know what gets piercings? Fucking pigs do. You look like a fucking pig, blah, blah.
Dude, Asian parents are savage.
Oh my God. Yeah. The
Savage.
insults. I'm like, God
Yeah,
damn.
yeah.
And he's like, like if you get tattoos like a pig too, they get branded. Do you want to get branded? I'm like,
Wait, why did my parents also say that? They're like, if you get a tattoo, you're getting branded. And I was like,
really?
I never felt so inclined to want to do it more. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, seriously, right?
kidding.
Seriously. You know what's funny is that I do notice that Asian parents, they pull from the same box of like insults,
They do.
right?
First of all, hide your brooms, hide
Yep.
your hangers,
Yep.
hide your belts, hide
Yep.
your chanelas or like chanclas, whatever. Because anything around them is a weapon.
Exactly.
And then when they start talking, goodbye to your life.
I know.
Like, get ready for therapy for 10 years.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's something in, I don't know what it is, and maybe it's just my opinion of things, but the way Asian parents yell, it's at this frequency where it's like it's like burned into your head.
You're like 10 years later still thinking about it.
Yeah, I can still hear it. You know?
Yeah,
I'm just
me
like,
too.
oh. I get like shivers, I'm just like, oh shit, like what is it now?
Yeah,
You know?
100%.
And yeah, I have noticed that with all my Asian friends, they always get the same thing.
Dude. Also, like, I don't condone this in any way, but like, I think my parents like instilled the fear in me with like the freaking chanclas
yeah.
and like all that stuff. I have like a very distinct memory of like me in high school talking back to my mom. My mom is driving, like, both hands on the wheel. I'm like pissing her off because I'm talking back. Next thing you know,
How old are you?
I think I was like 16.
Oh shit.
What a great age. And she had like one hand on the wheel, other hand's like this. She goes all slow. And then she goes, bah, bruh, like a pimp.
Really? It smacked you right in the face.
She like backhanded me literally back to my motherland. Like,
What was your reaction?
I was just shocked. But I never crossed her in that way again. Like, I was like, wow, that was intense.
Oh, you're a quick learner. It only took one time.
It's because I think Asian moms are like so impactful when they get upset. I'm like, oh man, I'll never forget that one.
I remember the first time. Actually, I think the first and only time my mom ever slapped me. So very similar
Yeah.
too. And it was like the only time she's ever been mad enough to yell at me.
Aw.
I was young and I was like stealing.
Oh, not stealing.
Yeah, for like some dumbass.
I feel like everyone kind of has like a phase where they're doing stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Hood rat activity.
Yeah, no, definitely, I knew too. I felt like because I got caught, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And it was like it was funny because I got away without getting in trouble with the law. I stole from like the swamp meet.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
so I used to wear like a bunch of skater clothes, and what I
Yeah.
did was like I would like take shirts and I would wear them over each other. And I would take pants and I would wear them over each other. And I would
The
walk
layering.
out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was just layering. It was cold, but I got greedy. I went to like 3 or 4 different shops and did. And you can imagine now I'm fucking layered,
Oh
right?
my
Like
God.
I'm looking
Fat
thick.
suit.
I'm looking thick. And eventually, some guys, someone like snitches me out. It's like some lady, and she's like, "Oh, I think those kids are stealing." And I'm actually with a friend. So a friend of mine was in the dressing room, like putting clothes on,
Yeah.
and I I overheard the lady, and I was like, "Hey, Dewey, I think we should go. I think we should go."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, hey, give me a sec. I'm still trying on more clothes."
Oh gosh.
So as soon as he gets out, like the clerk comes up and is like, "Hey, what are you guys doing? What's under there?" Blah
Yeah.
blah. The cops come, but before the cops come, like obviously we've been stealing from a couple different shops, so the clerk's like, "Where'd you get this? Like where'd you get this shirt? Where'd you get these pants?" And he's like, "If you don't tell me, I'm gonna break your legs," like something like that, right?
Oh my
Like, yeah, I'm gonna hurt you. And I was like, I don't know, just like denying it the entire time. And when the cops came, they just like let us go, right? And they actually had, one of the friends that was with us, he wasn't stealing, but his dad came and like he took us home. So the cops were like, yeah, just take him, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think because he threatened us as kids, that's why they let us go without any kind of trouble.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
But then when I got back, my mom came to my friend's house, which is where we got dropped off. She like the whole family came out. Like his family's huge. It was like 10 people, and she slapped the shit out of me, like just in front of everyone.
Like, your body and soul separated.
Oh yeah, I was like vibrating for a good second,
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what to say, and it's just different because my dad's hit me, when I was younger, but that felt different because it was a feeling of not only just pain, right? Because she hits hard, but like shame too.
Emotional damage.
Yeah, emotional damage. Exactly.
For real. That's real.
No.
I definitely can say I experienced that as well. I think it's just part of our like culture, shared culture for some reason. I don't think I know any other Asians that like have not experienced something somewhat similar.
True.
Especially if their parents come from like, are immigrants.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're okay.
Thank you. I've actually learned how to deal with my parents a lot better now that I'm an adult, because my mom is very soft. She doesn't really get angry too much. My dad has like anger issues, and I've learned how to like navigate that because I just, younger years, like in my 20s, I just thought like this is how they're gonna be for a while. But I feel like there's definitely ways where you can communicate with them and it gets
100%.
better. Do you feel like that's happened to you?
I think so too. I think that happened to me, especially once I moved away from them. I think creating that distance made us kind of appreciate our relationship more.
Yeah.
And definitely as I've gotten older, I feel like, oh, wow, like in their own way, they like try to express this, or like in their own way, they tried their best in trying to guide me in a certain way. And so I have nothing to be mad at, like, if anything, character building,
Yeah. I think there's pros and cons to it, to be honest. Like, this is probably be a very unpopular opinion, but I do think like some form of discipline, maybe not always like a strike to the face with a chunkle or something like that, but some form of like stern discipline is like good.
I think so. I always think like with me and Jeb, like he's so calm and understanding that like if we were both parents, like I think I would be like the more disciplinary one for some reason.
Really?
But like I don't see myself being like I'm gonna bust out like the chanclas or anything. But I do feel like I would be more stern. But I think it's because I've inherited the balance of my parents, wrath.
That's crazy. Your parents have influenced you a lot. I mean,
lot.
from your like career,
Yeah.
to like your dating life.
Yeah, I don't know. So interestingly enough, like I am my parents' only child together. I have siblings, but they're my half siblings. But I don't like make that distinction ever because like to me we grew up in one household. We share the same blood, we share the same parents. But my mom was married previously, had 2 kids. My dad was also married previously, had 2 kids.
Oh wow.
And then my grandma hooked them up, once they separated. And I was like a geriatric baby, actually. Like my mom had me later in life. And so I came out of her womb when she was 40. So like she had me. Yeah. So she was pregnant with me at 39, carried me, and then I was like out by 40. So I think that's the reason why I feel so heavily influenced by them, is because I knew I came out later. I have always felt like I have less time with them than my siblings. So I always try to like make up for that somehow by like being overly pleasing or overly like,
Wow.
honoring of them. But I mean, I owe them my life, so
That's a completely very unique experience.
very unique.
Yeah. Are your parents the same age?
Yes, they're like the only difference is months. So they're both born in 1952. And my dad's born in December. My mom's born in June. So technically she's like a couple months older.
Cougar.
I know. Runs in the family. No, I'm just kidding.
Dang. Wow. So growing up, did you realize that when you were young? Because obviously your mom had you when she was 40.
Yeah.
That means by the time you were 18, she was like 58.
Yep. Like, Asian parents, like, they don't look old, especially Asian
Yeah.
moms. So, like, I don't think it truly dawned on me until, I hit around, like, 18 or even, like, 15. Because then I would compare ages, like, with my,
Yeah.
cohort or my colleagues, classmates, their ages, like, their parents' ages. And then I realized, like, oh, shit, like, my parents are, like, a little advanced. But also, I think I just knew that very young because I knew the story of like when I was born, like she had me later. So I had the seed planted when I was little, but it didn't really flourish into anything that I wanted to take full action on until, I was more like cognizant of like the fact.
Yeah. Because not recently, but in the past like 10 years, starting to come to terms with my parents' age. So my parents are like in their 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is now I'm like worried.
Crazy.
You know?
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Like, I feel the sense of urgency. Well, I've felt the sense of urgency pretty much since I was like, came into adulthood. So like my parents are now like 70, 71.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm still not married yet. I still don't have kids. I'm still figuring stuff out. I'm still going to school right now. And so it does feel like an existential problem that I have.
And that's unique to you too.
It's very unique.
to you,
Yeah. I mean, unless they have like, there's other people out there,
Yeah.
I'm sure, but I don't think I know anyone.
It's
like,
definitely more on the rare side than not. So how do you deal with it?
I don't.
Really?
No. I try. So I found myself like at a certain point in my life, somewhat recently, especially because my mom was exhibiting more like health issues, like mourning the loss before it happened, like presently. And I don't know why I did that. I just think that I thought maybe like if I was prepared for it, if it happened, it wouldn't be as hard for me. But I think that keeps me from enjoying them now.
Yeah.
It keeps me from being in the moment with them now. So I think I try really, really hard to just take it day by day with them, and just like do what I can to like make their life easier, let them know that they're loved and supported somehow, even though I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Did that realizing that your mom's like having health issues change the way that you approach certain things with her at all?
I think heavily. Yeah. Like, I don't know how it couldn't affect me, in a way, like when I'm interacting with her. I try to not present her any issues that might cause her stress, because her ailments would be like worsened with stress. And so I think I also try to make a lasting impression every time I talk to her. Like every time I talk to her, I'm like overly affectionate, overly like reminding her that like, hey, like I love you, stuff like that. But I think it's just because in general, not just with her, but like with me, nothing's promised, like I could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I think the legacy that I want to leave behind is not something like tangible. I think it's more so like, did I show love everywhere I went, or did anyone feel like, seen?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where Luvsic came from, because I can't be normal.
Gotcha. I see it now.
Yeah.
I see the brand. It works. Yeah, because fortunately, my parents don't really have too many health issues. They have some, but like honestly, I feel like my dad should have a lot of health issues, surprisingly, because he smokes like a pack a day.
Yeah.
Just lives very unhealthy, like completely stressed all the time. He does like manual labor,
Oh.
and like very similar to you. Like I used to never do this, but I'll text him now. I'll try to remember. I'll text him like, oh, I love you.
Yeah.
And just like remind them that like I still care, because as you get older, you have less time to spend with your parents, like both figuratively and actually
Right.
presently, and but also in a different way, I'm way more patient with them too. Like like the idea of their morality
Yep.
makes me become more kind to the way I treat them. And not just them, like I have like a stepmom which is really weird. I think I gotta figure this about myself out, because I think there's some kind of trauma laying somewhere. But like very similar to my mom and my stepmom, whenever they ask me certain things, just to be kind, like, oh, did you eat today, or like what have you been up to? Like I get this weird like why are you asking me?
Yeah, like I can't handle my shit or something.
Yeah, like what? Why do you need to know?
Right,
like what the hell?
right.
And I now check myself when as when I was in my 20s, I was just like whatever. So I would just like walk away, not even like pay attention to them. But now I'm like check myself and think they obviously don't mean any harm.
Yeah.
They're just looking out for you.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just like, hey, I did eat today, or I did this, I did that. Even things that are highly, I'm not sure if you have the same issues with your parents, but like highly hypocritical. Earlier, before the podcast, I talked about, I'm notorious for gaining weight and losing weight. Right. It's just how I live. Like I could go on vacation, eat for like 2-3 months, and then come back and lose all that weight, whatever's. But in my mom's eyes, and she's like a slim Asian lady, right? She's always like, oh, you gained too much weight. Like you're looking bigger, you're looking fat. Like you can't, it's not a good look on you. And don't get me wrong, maybe she's right. But she's also the same person who's always like, oh, let's meet up to go eat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you cannot be fanning me up and telling me that I look too fat and I need to go to the gym and eat less.
It's so intuitive or counterproductive, because I think like Asians like show love by like, here, let's share food, let's share a meal. And they want that, right? Like that's like very prominent in our culture. But then at the same time, they're the first to be critical. Like, hey, you look at a little,
you're looking a little chunky, Yeah.
I know it just sets you up to be like doubting yourself always. Like,
what do you want?
Yeah, like, is my career good enough? Like, is my appearance good enough? Like, am I a good enough daughter, son, brother, sister? It's just, life is, it's weird, man.
Yeah, and you just got, for me, I just take it with a grain of salt now.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I understand her intentions, and I understand like within her personality and her life, that's how she handles things. And it might have worked for her maybe growing up, because she is still very slim now. So something's working, mom.
Right.
But for me, it's a little different. Maybe it's like counterproductive, like you were saying.
Yeah, that's so interesting that like we all obviously like grew up in different households, but like still going through the same stuff. But yeah, no, honestly, like in recent days, my mom, obviously she'll be like, when I'm home, oh, I'm gonna cook for you, blah blah blah, right? And then like low key, when I was more open about like my diagnosis, she was like, I am so glad you said something. She's like, because I thought you were pregnant. I was
God.
like, ouch. I'm like, no, you would know if I was pregnant. But that's just, I think, her way of like kind of nudging me in the direction of like, hey, like relax, like I want you to be around.
Yeah.
Or healthy. So
that's good. At least she's like trying to make an effort to be a little softer about it.
I don't know if that was that soft.
I mean,
but yeah.
Yeah, after the diagnosis, but prior to it, it seemed like she was like, okay,
she was like, whoa.
Really?
And I was like, I know. Definitely, she tries to be more soft about it now, because
that's good.
Touchy subject.
Yeah. And I know it's a touchy subject, but do you mind if we go into?
Oh yeah, we totally can. No, I was joking about it being touchy.
Yeah,
I'm over here on Instagram.
Yeah. Of course.
Sharing it,
just in case,
Yeah. So I don't know how long it's been now. I think maybe like 6 months now. I've been diagnosed with a thyroid disease. It's called hypothyroidism. Essentially, what it is, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, it is your thyroid not being able to produce enough thyroid hormone in order for your metabolism to work optimally.
Yeah.
So I had no concept of that whatsoever growing up because my dad's slim, my mom is like slim. She does have like diabetes and like high blood, but like that's not related.
Typical
you know?
Asian things.
Yeah, typical Asian, high cholesterol.
Yeah.
You know, and again, like I think for a certain part of my life, like I was very comfortable with like my appearance. I was comfortable enough to like do modeling at some point. And this is like the first time I've ever had to deal with like a body image thing. And to this day, like I still struggle with like accepting myself. I haven't had these in a while. But like I literally would get ready and just have like a breakdown because I'm like, I don't recognize who I am. I feel like I would like grieve who I was. Like my clothes don't fit. They fit different every time. Like it just, and I was like trying to make efforts, but it wasn't really doing much initially. So I think that was like a major, major struggle. And then like, again, growing up in like an Asian household where like they're a bit more critical on like things like that. I think that made me feel even more inadequate, you know? And then plus like being out in nightlife, being a DJ, like you want to maintain a certain image, you want to remain youthful. But I had all that like stacked up against me, you know, like,
That's a lot.
yeah. So, I think thyroid disease is like a very invisible disease.
Yeah, it creeps up on you.
It creeps up on you. A lot of people, I think, have thyroid disease and don't even know it. Just because like the symptoms are not that recognizable. Like, luckily for me, I was trying to lose weight, so I went to vegetarianism. But I was eating a lot of soy for protein, and I wasn't eating enough protein. And so I wasn't doing it correctly. So that led me to go to the doctor. And then that led me to take my blood tests. And then they were like, oh, by the way, like your cholesterol level's good, but you have hypothyroidism. And I was like, huh? And it was very scary for me at the moment because I'm like, what the heck is hypothyroidism?
Yeah.
Very foreign concept to me. But then I had my moment of sulking. Sometimes it still happens, but I'm okay with it. Like, I think healing is very nonlinear. You know, you learn as you go, you know. I think once I started to learn more about it myself, I think it empowered me more than it affected me negatively. Wow. So I think knowledge is definitely power in that sense. Because I think if I didn't do the research, I would just be like, okay, well, I have this. Yeah. I'm done.
Do you mind walking me through like the phases? I mean, obviously the discovery phase is when you went to the doctor and they told you, but like how did you process everything? And then going into like the healing phase.
So like discovery phase, I was extremely stressed out with work. And so I would just have no energy. So I would have enough energy probably to power me through the day at work. And then I would come home, nothing left in the tank. I would knock the fuck out. And sorry, am I allowed to cuss?
No, you're good. You cuss all you want.
Knock the fuck out. And then, I thought that was normal. You know, I was like, oh, I'm in nightlife. Like I'm probably not getting enough sleep. I had like gastrointestinal issues, but like when I was 24, 25, I was like diagnosed with IBS. So I just thought like, oh, whatever. Like I'm just having a stomachache again. And so it just continually built up. And of course I was drinking a lot. So I thought I was gaining weight because of my lifestyle, like me drinking, me not getting enough sleep, me eating crazy from like sleeping at all hours in the night, like being hungover. And so I had no idea, again, like invisible disease,
Yeah.
no clue. And then I had gotten the diagnosis, thankfully. And then the sulking phase came. I could not accept it. Like, it's literally like I went through the stages of grief, where I was like, trying to reason my way through it. Like, and also just a lot of questioning, like, why me? Like, why now? I'm fairly young. Like, no one else in my family has it, that I knew of. And it was just a lot of like dark moments, I would say, just for that time being. And then I read somewhere, like on like a thyroid blog, that like the hardest thing is like accepting and grieving like your past self versus like the person you are now. And I just felt like, man, it's so counterintuitive and productive to continually like hate yourself, and I think once I got tired of feeling that way, I was like, okay, what can I realistically do? So I go on TikTok. Shout out TikTok. It's like my new search engine. It's just so much faster.
Yeah.
And I found like other women who were like fit now, who had hypothyroidism and were able to reverse it. So I looked into all their content, like what are they doing? I looked on YouTube. And I just like researched all these holistic practices in order to try to get me to a place where I could reverse it, because I was like, dude, I don't even have kids yet. Like, I'm not even married. Like, I want to be able to enjoy my life still. And the only way I can do that is if I like do something about it, So after seeing all them, I was like very hopeful after hearing other people say like, hey, I've gone through this, I've gone through that, I've been able to manage it. That also gave me like a lot of hope. So there's like some lights at the end of the tunnel there, that kept me pushing through it. But basically I think it was like discovery, grief, acceptance, and now I'm just at a state of like gratefulness of at least diagnosing it like to a place where it's not that bad. Like, I don't have to get surgery, or I don't need to do anything invasive. It's really just like a lifestyle change. And I think I took that very seriously because I felt like it's not really a life or death situation, but it kind of is,
Yeah.
Like, if I don't do it now, then like I'm like fucked later on.
Can you tell everyone what happens if you don't take care of it? What's like the most extreme form?
I think, I don't know too much. I mean, obviously I'm not like a medical professional, but I think it can cause like heart issues. Obviously, if your metabolism is not working, like you don't have any energy, like your quality of life is just going to decrease exponentially, like super fast. And it does affect like your state of mind. Like you do get brain fog. Like I remember when I was still like figuring it out, or I didn't know, like I feel like for most of my life, I felt like pretty comfortable with communicating with people, and like I could find the word easily.
Yeah.
But there would be so many times like I'd be like, what the fuck is that word? But like it's a word I've used a zillion times. Like my brain connectors were not connecting.
Oh, wow.
So like it just affects you mentally. It affects your gut health, your liver health. Because obviously if your hormones aren't being processed correctly, like it relies on your other organs, So overall, like who knew your little thyroid is like so essential to your body?
I actually have a friend who has hyperthyroidism.
Yeah.
And he like, his heart stopped working. They had to resuscitate him like 2 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now he has like a pacemaker in the side of him.
See?
Yeah, it's crazy. And he that happened to him when he was like early 30s. Like things.
Early 30s.
Yeah.
Get your hormones checked, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I kind of want to talk to you about this too, because I am not saying this proudly, but I'm very negligent of my health. And fortunately, I've been able to get away with a lot of things, but also very similar, like what you were saying is, hypothyroidism is kind of like an invisible, like,
Invisible.
yeah. So I'm curious, because in your case, if it wasn't you accidentally going to a doctor and
Yeah.
getting that diagnosis, you would have never known.
No.
And I'm probably in a similar situation, in which case I'm kind of scared. But like, what do you think now looking back? What kind of precautions could you have taken, or would you give advice to other people like to take in order to kind of avoid these
Yeah.
situations?
I am like a very big advocate for like a holistic healing and like natural remedies.
Yeah.
So I think like if you could just implement like supplementation, or even just eating more whole foods versus like processed foods, like you will feel a difference, and cutting out alcohol, you'll feel a difference. Like I never knew how badly it was affecting me until I rid myself of it,
Really?
And then I saw myself in contrast, like, oh, before and after. I'm like, whoa, like mentally sharp. But another thing I would advise is like sometimes we're easy to brush things off, like I was very much so like that, like guilty of brushing off being tired easily, having certain like mood swings or like anything that feels abnormal could be like an indicator, because I think ultimately our bodies are built to like want to function normally. So like if you feel like anything's off, like no harm in getting checked. I think that's a major step that I think is being like missed because we're young. We're like, whatever, I'm good. I'm invincible.
Yeah.
I think if I had the chance to go through it all again, I would have checked earlier, like when I was feeling like off.
I think, yeah, you're right. Because when you're young, you do feel like you're invincible and you're like, oh, just get through it, or it's just an off day. Or just like how you're saying, like when you quit alcohol, you're like, oh, wow, there's a difference between the before me and the after me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would like to think of it as, I don't know why our society doesn't really press us to get checked up
More
regularly, even when you're super young.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because I've had people pass away through things like cancer, things that could have been. I wouldn't say if they might still be here if it was like a little bit earlier, but their chances would have been a lot higher.
Yeah.
If they would just went in
100%.
like a year or two before, and I don't understand why it's not more of a regular thing.
I think that's what we're here to do.
Yeah,
We're here to normalize like being okay with being young and still getting checked, like you want to be around for your loved ones, for yourself, like for so long, so much longer.
Yeah.
And like the only way to do that is to be proactive. And so you don't want to be in this situation like I was in where life made the decision, like if you're at a good place with your health, like, or if you suspect anything, like be the one in charge, like don't be in, like in my case, like life brought me to the decision to be proactive. So it's like, if you don't choose it for yourself, life will choose for you. And like, that's the ultimate lesson that I learned,
And that's infinitely more scarier too.
Way scarier. You're not in control at that point. And so at least when you're young, like you have the advantage of like, also with like technology being what it is, like you have so much information at, accessible to you. And like, it's just sad that we're like docile, we're just like, okay, I'm going to watch this instead of like learning about something that would better my health or like my life. So I think that's why I'm in a state of gratefulness, is because had it not been for me going through this, like I would have never reached a point in my life where like I'm like woke,
Yeah, you wouldn't have even realized it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're sharing, because we had a guest come on and he had kidney failure. So he's on dialysis, and his whole mindset shifted because he has to be healthier, and he goes through dialysis. So it's like a constant reminder that
Totally.
something's going on, but his mission now is to like inform people because he's
Yeah.
young. He's
Yeah.
also, I think he's like 31 or something, like 32.
Yeah.
You know, great guy. And yeah, his mission now is just inform people, but not just inform them, but to like inspire them to be, others like him. Like, yeah, your life is completely changed.
Yeah.
Like all the things that you used to be able to do, you cannot do it now.
No.
You actually have to be very intentional with what you eat, what you drink, how much rest you get, what you do on certain days.
Yep.
Your days are sometimes planned out for you. Like life brought that to him. Right now, he has to do dials. He does it every day for like 10 hours a day.
That's why, like,
It's insane.
it's unfortunate that we're in our like world is set up in such a way that we are constantly in contact with things that are killing us, like that make us sick. And so like you're saying, like he has to be more intentional about what he's doing, but I don't know why I didn't have the belief instilled in me already that I should be intentional.
Yeah.
Like, and so now it's just like I'm at a place where I have to be, but also I'm grateful to be,
Yeah, but I get what you're saying. I do think that, and this is not like a propaganda podcast at all, but I do think that the information that was fed to us early on, like 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we only had one source. You know what I mean? It was like the fucking news.
The news.
Yeah, unless you went to school for it. But
Right.
even then, it was like you don't know if that's true or not.
Right.
Because studies change, science, like you gather new facts and things change. Like I remember growing up, people were like, "Oh, eggs are terrible for you."
Yeah.
Like high cholesterol, all these things. Now I'm hearing eggs are good. And then I'm sure in 10 years I'll hear eggs are bad, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And even things that like you grow up learning, it's hard to unlearn.
It's so hard.
Yeah. Like for instance, like I'm a big believer in a lot of things you should try for yourself and figure it out. Similar
Yeah.
with jobs, like try the job out, see if
Yeah.
you like it or not. If it's not the field that you want to be in, don't do it. Very similar with like how your body functions, right? Like find your sweet spot for things.
Yeah.
So, one of the first things I did when I decided that I wanted to lose weight was I did some research. I was like, oh, what's this keto thing?
Yeah.
Did it. I lost like 30 pounds in 1 month. Insane, right? Never could have thought that I would lose weight like
Right.
that. And then, what I got when I did it, it was like probably like 10 years ago. But the reception that I got was people were telling me like, oh, that's bad for you.
Yeah, yeah.
You need carbs.
I know. I
Like,
hear both.
Yeah, you cannot not eat carbs. And, if I just had listened to them, I would have never known like my body actually works really well on it.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine, So, just like with anything else, like very much, experiment and listen to your body, right? Because certain things,
100%.
we're all different.
Yeah.
Like what works for you might not work for me.
100%.
Whether it's like genetically or just lifestyle, sometimes it doesn't make sense.
That's so true. And I think like from the things I was learning, I was like, okay, that I could do. But then I realized that I can't do.
What was it?
Like I put myself on a lot of like dietary restrictions now, just because I already have this problem. So I'm trying to eat and like be in a state of not being inflamed. So like I try to follow like an anti-inflammatory diet as much as I can. The only thing I can't stay away from is dairy, but like
Cheese.
I just love the cheese. Other people are even more extreme, like, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know if I could commit to doing that. But like you said, like I found my happy medium. And I'm happy to share that I just had my blood test done. So I have to get my blood test done every month to like check my thyroid hormones. And I was actually able to get them to normal.
Whoa.
Actually optimal.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. Just this month?
Just this past month. Yeah.
Oh,
so
shit.
from like what I was reading, like sometimes it takes people a lot longer. But I'm happy that like I was able to reverse it within like, or not reverse it. Sorry, it's not reversed. But at least get it to an optimal place, like within like 5 to 6 months. So
Nice.
it's been a long road.
Oh, happy for you. That's
you.
really quick.
It was so quick, and I had just like posted about it, and then like following shortly after, like I'm here now. So I think I'm happy to share that like if you do make little tweaks to your lifestyle, like you never know how big of a difference it could make,
Yeah. Yeah. I think again, people should just listen to their bodies and get checked up. And
Yeah.
maybe like not over dramatize things, but yeah, it's like if you feel like something's wrong, maybe go get it checked out at the
Yeah.
very least, right?
Right. I mean, it's always good, even just for like the peace of mind aspect,
Yeah.
Because like I'll be like on WebMD, and like next thing you know, like I'm self-diagnosing, and then I'm just like, I have everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is like the worst possible thing
Oh
to
no,
do.
yeah, for sure.
So like just go to a professional,
Oh, yeah, for
like
sure.
take yourself out of that situation and don't put yourself through the misery of like
No, it's so stressful.
overanalyzing.
So stressful. I had like a little bump that's like on the side of my wrist. And I told my friends, I'm like, oh yeah, I have this weird bump. It's like kind of hard inside my wrist. And everyone's like, oh my God, is it cancer? Is it cancer? I'm like, oh God, why did I
what?
even tell you guys this?
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm just gonna go get it checked out. And
Yeah.
that's really the right thing to do. But I actually want to ask you, I know that you said you went through all the phases when you got diagnosed.
Yeah.
Was there any specific thing that really helped you get through it?
I think the thing that really got me through it the most is once I was open about it, like I received so much love on like Instagram or just like people in general, you
Yeah.
know. I think I was afraid to vibrate from the place of like authenticity with what I was going through because I felt it was so ugly, I'm like, it's not a highlight that I want to share, but I also felt like it was the right thing for me to do at the time. And had it not been for like such an amazing like support system, like you included, and like I think it would have made like my days like really tough. And I think I could read back those messages or like read back the comments or like rely on friends to constantly check on me or like just be there,
Yeah.
And Jeb included as well, like props to the man. He like read a whole book on hypothyroidism.
Really?
Yeah. And like how to support your partner with hypothyroidism. And like, they don't make them like that no more,
Yeah, that's a lot.
And so I think, and my family included, I think I wouldn't be able to really go through it without them. And then also just those people who were making content about it, like, fuck, I would have been like in a place where like I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah.
So I think like those sources really like helped me in a time where like I felt like no one could relate.
Yeah, that's why I'm really, really, really glad that you're sharing all this, and I know that we want to talk about it because it goes back to like the point. The reason why we do this podcast is to find a point of like relatability, right? And I'm sure there's like others that are going
Yeah.
through what you're going through.
Yeah.
Same thing with Justin and his like kidney failure and dialysis. Like, going back to what I was saying earlier about, I neglect my health and I don't get it checked out. Like, I think a little bit of the fear is that I don't want to feel like something's wrong with me, but the fact that you put it out there and you're saying like, oh, this is what I was diagnosed with. I'm sure someone else very much like you who's
Yeah.
maybe going through the same thing, or maybe not now, maybe later. They're probably like, wow, okay, like Lori could talk about this. Like, it's okay if I could get checked out, or maybe it's okay that I put out there and,
Yeah.
see what the reception is, right?
Yeah.
Because that's important. You don't want to feel alone. That's the last thing.
That's the last thing. I think as people, as humans, we're built for human connection.
Yeah.
And all we want is someone to relate to, like that's
Takes
why
a village.
Yeah. That's why we're over here like searching niche, like, other like content creators that
Yeah.
like resonate with us, and just other people that resonate with us in general. Just because no one wants to feel like alone on this path.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not. And I actually want to ask you, you mentioned that Jeb like read a whole book about
Yeah.
it. And obviously he's been very supportive. With your lifestyle change, does that mean his lifestyle has kind of changed too?
I as a partner hate to deprive him of any type of experience. So like I made that distinction very clear, like, hey, eat gluten, eat soy, like eat whatever I can't eat. He's gracious enough to try his hardest not to do it.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to make me feel like I'm missing out. But I don't care, like I know the path that I'm on is not necessarily the same for anybody else, and I'm okay with it, I just think you know, that communication is always like very important.
Yeah.
So I just try to let him know transparently, like, hey, you don't have to, you know, but he does. And so again, very grateful. He like tries to make my life like super easy. And in a way, yes. Like when he's not with me, like gluten all day, dairy all
Really?
day, you know? But if he's with me, like when we go to the grocery store, we just buy like friendly products for me. When we're cooking, friendly stuff at home, just so that like, you know, we don't have to do double. Like
Yeah.
it's hard out
Yeah, your
here.
meal and my meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a way, like he has been. Also, he's not like a huge drinker.
So that's easy.
Yeah, so that's easy. He's more like 420 friendly, and so like I'm okay with it too because me too.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like so at least I still have that. You know,
Yeah.
it's like yes and no. I think he respects it when I'm there, and if he's involved, we're both doing stuff. Like, of course. But then on his own, like I'm definitely like, please. Or even if he wants to try something, like we went to Hawaii and he wanted to get malasadas from Leonard's.
Yeah, gotta.
Oh my God. I was like, please describe like the sensory feelings
Uh-huh.
that you are like experiencing. And that's my only thing is like, if you're going to eat it, like just give me a full play by play, like
Yeah.
the most descriptive thing you could say. So I feel like I'm vicariously eating through you.
Wow.
Yeah. But other than that, like, I don't care. As long as he just tells me like, dude, how is it?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
No, that's great. I mean, it sounds like he's like super supportive, which
Very.
is cool because, you know, I've talked about this a couple times on the podcast, but like whatever your significant other goes through, as far as like, let's say like a illness or a disease or whatever, it's like that. As much as you don't want it to affect the other person, it does, right?
Yeah.
And you know, at a certain point, not everyone's gonna tough it out, right? Depending on like how severe, you know, like because you know, like right now I have my grandma's going through like not going through, but she has dementia, and you know that's like it's debilitating. You know, it's like it's hard
100%.
to see, and you know, like for you to choose life with a person like that, their health and their lack of health is something that's like intertwined with your life,
Right.
and to see him do something like oh yeah, I'm gonna read a book.
Dude, he doesn't even read like that.
Oh really?
No, he does, but like that was the fastest he's ever finished a book.
Oh shit.
But again, I think it's because like the relatability was there.
Yeah.
And he's just been so eager to try to support me because he's seen me like suffer like through everything. It's hard to hide it when you're at home with someone, you know, like
Yeah.
so he's just seen all my ups and downs and he's like, fuck, like she going through it. Let me see what I can do.
Yeah. When you find out, how'd you tell him?
So I went to the doctor. I think I called him. And I was just like, hey, I gotta tell you something. And he's like, okay, what is it? He's like, how'd the doctor go? How are you feeling? And I'm like, okay, I feel okay. Like physically, but like emotionally, I don't know. And I just told him over the phone because I was still visiting my parents back home. So it was my only way to tell him, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to save it till I got home because I'm just like, I gotta tell someone. And so yeah, that was it. It was on the phone. Anticlimactic.
And he handled it fine. He was just like, oh.
He was like, "Oh my God, what is that?"
Oh, so he didn't know either.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't really
He's
know
like,
either.
"Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I have no clue. I just know I have to take medication." And pretty much the rest of it, like I just found out as I went.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Yeah.
He was a little panicked because he's like, "Are you gonna be okay?" Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do we? But again, like very reassuring in the same token, where he was just like, "I'm there, no matter what." Like,
Was
so-
that the first time he's had to do something like that? Where it's like, oh shit, like I gotta be here for her. This is a pretty big deal.
Well, like as I was like building up to this point, I have had issues sleeping, but obviously, like if I'm connecting the dots now, like my hormones were totally thrown off. It even like gave me like ovarian cysts. I know this is like getting really in there, but like it affected everything, like my menstrual cycle, my moods, my ability to sleep and function.
Oh wow.
And so he has seen me go through like so much time where I don't sleep and I'm going to work. And so like obviously like that took a toll on me at some point. And so he was already kind of going through it with me, like when that was happening, but we didn't know what to call it, you know, like I was like, oh, okay, I have insomnia, like I have ADHD or something, like, you know,
Yeah.
like, which I found out right before I got diagnosed with hypothyroidism.
Oh, you found out you had ADHD.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that I don't like openly talk about because I feel like, I don't know, I really haven't had the time to dive into it that more fully because I was trying to get my thyroid in check.
Yeah.
And like my ADHD medication, I guess, is considered like more of an upper. And so my thyroid medicine is already considered an upper as well. I don't know how to describe or like how to like explain it medically, but I am pretty sensitive to like medication, so I didn't want to like double them. So I was like, let me figure out my thyroid thing, and then I'll like deal with the ADHD thing because I think I'm more functional. Like, yeah.
When you got okay, so I don't know too much about ADHD, even though I might have it, but like, is that something that you are just born with, or is that something that you could develop?
Dude, I don't know. Like, because now that I think about it, like, did I have ADD as a child? Like, I have no idea.
That's what I'm
Because
saying.
I thought to like look into it as an adult because I'm like, you know how we were talking earlier, and then I felt like I had like all these tabs open in my brain, and then I couldn't follow one.
Yeah.
There it is, ADHD. Period. So I was like, I always thought that was normal.
That's what I'm saying.
But then like after doing more research and you know, I blame TikTok as well because somehow my algorithm sent me to like ADHD talk. And like all of a sudden I'm like, wait, that sounds like me.
Oh, is that why you went in for it?
Yeah. So
way.
I was like, yeah, people were just like, oh, it develops later in women, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm
Oh.
like, huh. So then I got very curious because again, I was like trying to figure out like what the hell is wrong with me? Like, because I didn't know about my thyroid thing at first. And I was just like, maybe it's this, like maybe I just have ADHD. Like, I don't know. And then, yeah, so like they ask you a bunch of questions because you're basically getting like a mental evaluation.
How does it work? Like, can you go through?
So I had a teleappointment with I think she was a nurse practitioner or something like, but that's her field. And she had a very extensive list of questions to ask me. It was an hour long of questions. And like, she's like, do you do this? Do you feel like this? You know, like, and at the end of it, she was just like, okay, you have ADHD. And I'm like, huh, that makes sense.
Do you know what the answers were for the tests? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, do you constantly find yourself distracted?
Yeah.
Okay, this leans towards ADHD. Can you not focus on one thing at a time? Like,
Yeah, it was like stuff like that. And like I remember one of them was like, do you find yourself talking like really fast and like wanting to say a lot of things all at once? I'm like, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm just asking because I'm like diagnosing myself right now. I'm like,
Dude,
okay.
again, like that was me on TikTok like, oh my God, I have that. I'm all diagnosing myself.
TikTok's like the new WebMD.
It is. It was. And you know, like it was a crackhead hour too. So I'm like, here I am, like crackhead hour. I can't sleep. I have all these tabs open in my brain, like a freeway, just like shh.
Yeah.
And then it becomes like debilitating to the point where you're like, I have all this stuff I need to do. I have all these ideas, but like you can't bring yourself to do them. And then I was like, I don't do any of them, you know? And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I need help. So, yeah, I don't remember like exactly because it was an hour, like so many questions.
Because you know what I mean? Like when you take some of these tests, and maybe I'm just like that kind of test taker, but you know, if I'm going in for a test for like ADHD, like I kind of know which questions and what answers like lean towards you
Oh,
having
yeah.
ADHD
100%.
versus not, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, ah, fuck, like are the answers gonna be skewed a little bit because I'm like a little bit scared
Aware.
yeah, I'm aware. So
Yeah.
I like, oh, if I answer that, even though that's more correct toward me, that might mean that I have ADHD.
Right. I think the mindset I had going into it was I'm not going to judge myself. Like, whatever questions she asks me, I'm going to be transparent. Like, one of them was like, do you experience anxiety and like depression or something like that? And then she'll dive deeper into it. Like, when was the last time? Like, have you ever had suicidal thoughts? Blah, blah, blah.
So she's actually asking you these questions.
Yeah, like all of them. And so she's, you know, actively evaluating based on every compounding answer. And she diagnosed me with depression and ADHD.
Wait, it's the same test?
Yeah, like all of it. She did an inclusive like thing. But she told me that she believes that my depression is linked to the fact that I had ADHD. Like because I didn't have a name to call it and like I didn't know how to help myself. So in that sense it like led me to being depressed because I wanted to be more productive, but then I couldn't.
That's so interesting. I can see that though. A lot of health things are like linked.
Yeah.
You know? Wow, that's crazy. I mean, throughout all this and like figuring all this out and healing, and what's the biggest lifestyle change that you had to make? Because you still DJ, you still do all these other things.
I think like with regard to the DJ lifestyle, I had to cut out alcohol.
Ooh, yeah, that's huge.
Huge. Literally, I think that I relied heavily on alcohol like as a crutch socially, and also performance wise. Like,
really,
I think if I had a drink or two, or if I like took shots before DJing, I felt like I would be less up here and more here, like more present. And I relied on that crutch, you know, to like kind of help me full send like certain transitions or full send things that I normally wouldn't do because I'd be like too up here.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to like learn to not be relying on that. Like,
how'd you do that?
I think I have to actively connect to my why. Like, why am I being alcohol free? And I think I remind myself that like the benefits of me not drinking alcohol in this present moment, as much as I would like to, will far outweigh like this, like me just saying yes.
Yeah.
So like the gratification is more long-term than short-term.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that was like one of the biggest, because it's so hard, even in social interactions, like with your friends, like New Year's Eve, holidays, like what are you gonna do? Everyone's drinking. So I found like non-alcoholic alternatives.
All right, Lori. So I want to talk to you about your dating life. We kind of touched base on it a little bit, and I know that you said that your mom's super religious, and every guy that you've been with, she wants you to marry.
100% to this day.
Yeah, but you know, like you were mentioning, like you're not married now. Like, how was your dating life through those years?
It was rough.
Really? What do you mean?
I think like you mean like in terms of like my relationship with my mom, or just like in general?
In general,
how is
like the whole thing, the whole shebang.
Early on, like I had my very first crush at like kindergarten.
Oh wow.
But like the serious dating, I had like a very good first boyfriend. So that showed me like, okay, non-toxic love. Like, it was good, very good. And then every boyfriend after that, I don't know, I couldn't get it together. Like my picker was like broken.
Really?
Off. No offense to any of them, but
yeah.
Like I also realized though that it was like something I continually put myself through, because I was going through the cycle of dating like the same kind of guys.
What kind of guy?
Like ones that are more kind of like rough around the edges, if I'm putting it like nicely.
Can you give me an example of rough around the edges? Like what that means?
Like someone who got a little bit of trauma in their life. Oh. So like, you know, they didn't know how to act in a relationship. In a friendly capacity, wonderful. But relationship, totally different story. But yeah, I would consider like some of my exes toxic. You know, I give them grace. Like everybody is going through what they're going through. Everyone deals with their past traumas or haven't dealt with them. So like if you don't, then it leads you to a place where you don't know how to treat another person. And so I went through a lot of that, I think, in my adulthood, like in dating. I have always been like a serial monogamist. Like I am not one to have like a hoe phase.
Yeah.
Like right before Jeff, I contemplated it because I was like in a very long-term relationship. And that was like a really hard breakup for me. So then I was like, I'm about to go all out.
Yeah.
Like I've been, you know, cooped up in here. Like I've been like 12 years a slave over here.
Wait,
like
how long?
No. I was just joking.
Okay. I was like, whoa.
Referencing that like it was a really long time.
Yeah.
Like in a state of like not really being able to be myself like in a relationship, so like kind of losing myself. So I was like hoe phase all day, like that's what I was thinking, hot girl summer, getting ready for it. And then like I meet Jeb and goodbye to those plans, but in like the happiest way. Like
of course.
I was not looking for a relationship, and then I feel like it always happens like that. Like I always hear people say that like the moment they're like not looking for a significant other, like their person comes.
Yeah.
But I think it's because of the mere fact that you're letting it go and letting the universe take care of it. So then it's like you're not in that state of like lack.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but prior to him, I think I had to do a lot of like inner work, date those people, in order for me to learn how to like set boundaries, like love myself properly. I don't think I knew how to do that. It's not like something you get taught, you know?
Yeah. What was it? I know you said you learned how to love yourself properly, set boundaries. Mm-hmm. Can you give me like some examples of that?
Yeah, like I think if someone mistreats you like one time, that's a pretty good indicator of like, okay, this person is capable of mistreating you, of disrespecting you, of like being a certain way.
Yeah.
And then if you continually allow it to happen, then like shame on you. You know, it's like the whole fool me once, you know, kind of thing. And at that point, I was the enabler, and I didn't realize I was the enabler because I didn't like leave, or I didn't like stand up for myself, or like, like I guess have enough self-respect and self-love to like leave that situation, or like draw a line like, hey, you can't do that, you know? And I think that's important. Like when you're with somebody, like you set the precedent for how they will treat you, based on how you treat yourself and what you allow.
Very true. Very true. Unfortunately. Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Because you kind of, I think the way people want to romanticize things is you want the other person in your life, your significant other, to kind of just have that already.
Yeah.
They come in, the
Built
pieces
in.
just fit, right? Like they already know, like they're a mind reader, right?
Yeah.
But really, like you have to lay down like the groundwork for it to be like that. Like,
And how can you do that if you don't know yourself? Like, can you do that if you don't love yourself?
that's true.
So I think, yes, they were toxic relationships, but I didn't even fully know how to even set the precedent, you know?
Yeah.
I was like figuring it out.
Yeah. At what point did you figure out like, oh, I need to show myself some love, aside from like just trying to get it from this other person?
Yeah. I think once I really sat with myself, I realized I was repeating the same cycle, and then questioning like, hey, why am I like always stuck with this kind of person? And why am I always like in the position where I'm the nurturer, or like I'm the not fixer, but like, you know, like in that position where like I feel like they're reliant on me in like such a way emotionally.
So you're Captain Save-A-Ho.
Unfortunately, I
That's
have
right,
like a
why?
Captain Save-A-Ho like complex that I've had, but
You're like, we're all the broken guys.
yeah, like I'm here. No. Essentially, yeah, though. And then I think after repeating that, like you're just kind of like in a sick like nightmare where you're just reliving the same thing over and over. And then I had to be very real with myself, like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like, you keep saying it's them, it's them, it's them. Like, yes, they're responsible for their actions, but at the end of the day, like, what do you allow, you know?
True.
And like, I was like, fuck, like, I've been letting this go on for years and at the expense of myself, you know, like at my own like well-being. And I think you kind of have to have a point where if you're like at the lowest, there's the only way to go is up. And I think when you start to notice that you're different, like your friends say like, hey, you changed, like, but not in a good way. Or like your family notices like a change in you. That's when I felt like, oh fuck, like I think there's something wrong. You know, like I need to figure out what is my responsibility in this. And I think the blame is not just on that person, but what is my participation in it, you know?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And it's just like you were saying, until you reach that point where it's like, oh, you got to figure out what you got to change in yourself, you do end up in like that cycle.
Yeah.
That vicious cycle.
Yeah. And like, I think that you'll keep repeating the same cycle. Like you'll be all like on a carousel forever until you take yourself off of it and look in the mirror and be like, bruh, like this ain't right.
So what changed between that point and you meeting Jeb?
I focused more so on how do I put all that love that I was extending to another person back to myself? Like, how do I shift the focus and the narrative from being like, oh, they treated me wrong, like I was the victim here, you know, into being like in a state of like empowerment again, like back to myself. Because I think when I was in those like relationship dynamics, I think I felt like I wasn't the captain of my ship, you know, like I was just taking a back seat to like what was going on. Like I felt like the little, like there's like a little alien in my head from like Men in Black, and like he's controlling everything. I'm just here, you know? And I think once I focused and shifted the intention from somebody else, it like everything started to click, you know, like I'm back into alignment with myself. I'm like not so serious, not so like guarded, because that's not my nature, you know, like I'm like open, bubbly, like I like to connect with other people. And during those times, I was not that way.
Oh, really?
Like my whole personality changed according to the person I was with, because I was afraid to be like that because I knew what that might cause, you know, like it might cause a fight, it might cause this and that. And like I felt unknowingly like controlled by those situations. And I think once I started to be more accountable for my part in it, and then like taking part in my own healing and like just loving myself more than those situations. And I think a big part was forgiving too. Like I think I held a lot of resentment for a long time, but that didn't allow me to move on. Like I was just dating other people, but carrying the baggage, you know, and
I was about to say that.
Yeah, like when I could just let it go and not put that on someone else. And thankfully, when Jeb came into the picture, I was just like, you know, preparing for hot girl summer, and like I didn't have any care about that kind of stuff because I was good with myself already.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because you spent time for hot girl summer, meaning you were working on yourself, preparing yourself for like, oh yeah, this is just
Me
about
time.
me.
Yeah.
Right. And then you find Jeb, who's like, at this time you're not trying to look for a relationship, but you're, you know, I don't know if I'm using the wrong word, but like healed or have progressed enough to where it's like you're comfortable in your own skin again.
Yeah.
And then he gets to see you for who you currently are.
True.
Right. This like person is not the baggage holder or the,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like this healed person is like, oh, you feel like normal again. And then he clicks and he sees you in your most like, I guess, like authentic self. Right. And was it like that when you guys first met? You guys felt like it was very...
Obviously, my state of mind when I met him was like, this is like very platonic, you know, like also because I was at Academy of DJs at the time as a student, and he was part of staff.
Yeah.
So like, I was like, no.
No student teacher.
No student teacher interaction.
Yeah.
But like as I progressed through that program, he was like the one person that I like clicked with all the time. And it was just like easy, you know? And I'm like, wow, he's like my bestie. And then one day, like, I had some liquid courage and I saw, like, you know, he was just DJing, doing his thing. And I was like, wow, he's so good. And then I, like, noticed that I saw him in a little bit differently.
That night.
Yeah, like, just watching him in his element was, like, there was something beautiful about seeing someone, like, really glow and, like, something they love doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, he's so good. I never looked at him like that, you know? And then our friendship progressed. We would talk all the time.
Wow, so he like kind of got out the friend zone or something?
Yeah. Your boy's out the friend zone.
Damn, he wasn't even trying.
No, he was not.
Wow.
But I truly like just like fucked with him so hard as a person. So like that's what attracted me, was just like his essence, like his being. So like it was a natural like transition, because I'm like, of course I would want to be with someone that I like fuck with this hard, you know,
Yeah.
just like as a friend. And I think ideally that's like what it should be, but I never thought to pursue that, because I was like, oh, I'm going to go with attraction first, or like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go with chemistry first, or like this person matches like my ideal type or whatever. Terrible way to like choose, you know? Because at the end of the day, like all that stuff is temporary.
Yeah.
Like you got to be okay with their soul, you know?
Was that the first time that it was someone that you saw as strictly platonic, and then it somehow...
Yes. Never in my life. Like
no one's ever gotten out the friend zone.
nobody. And honestly, like it was just a surprise to us both, I think.
Oh, really?
Like we were definitely not looking for anything. But we just like gravitated towards each other like very organically. And that's never happened to me before. Also, like, I don't know, like, I really wasn't looking, so that was not my intention at all. But, like, at the time, he was doing like 75 hard, and also he was like in the military, so like he would go on base to the Air Force Base in Vegas, and then he would still do 75 hard and then make it to academy, like do his responsibilities over there and do his job. And I was just like, I think I admired his self-discipline so much, because I felt like at the time that was something I was still working on in myself. So like unknowingly I was like, you know,
Yeah.
it was like a magnet. And I was like, how'd you do that? But yeah, best thing to ever happen to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shouts to Jeb for getting in the friend zone.
I know. There's hope.
Wait, so how did it happen exactly? Because you told me that you saw him in his element, and you're like, oh, okay, he's actually really good. I'm actually kind of attracted to this.
Yep.
Did he have a similar moment with you? Like,
Okay, so I have like a firm belief that like sometimes guys don't make a move because they're afraid of rejection, or like,
yeah, for
it's
sure.
so much more daunting to like even make a move. Like you'd rather just be a friend or like strike out because it's easier.
yeah.
It's like risky putting yourself out there, but I think the same goes for women. But anyways, again, I'm not, I don't drink alcohol now, but at the time I did. And I had just passed my midterm like for academy, and it was a soul control event.
Oh, shit. Nice.
And it was at apartment 503.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, tequila shots, like bring them in. I'm celebrating, you know? And Jeff was there, and like he had brought a friend that was a girl. But I was like, did they come together? And like I felt my jealous tick like
Really?
come on. And I was like, bro, like what are these feelings? So I'm like trying to comprehend everything. And then I don't know, like I think I said to him, like I came up to him, I was drunk already.
You're like, who the fuck is this bitch?
For real. For real. I was like LaQuisha. It was not me. I go up to him. I'm so mortified when I tell this story, but I was like, so you're just not going to tell me I'm cute or anything?
No
I was like,
way.
you're not even going to notice me? I'm like, you're going to bring some random girl that you'd like, I've never seen in my life. And like, you're just not going to say anything about me? Like, I thought, you know, I try to show out a little today. And I was just like, I don't know why I said that. I just wanted him to notice me for some reason. But you know, like when you're drunk, like you have no fucks given.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you
Inhibitions are lowered. Yeah.
yeah. So you just like say what you need to say. And that was it. And then I just like stopped interacting with him. And then like
Wait, what was his reaction? I
he
mean,
was so confused. He was like, huh? And I was like, yeah, like you're not gonna say I'm cute? And he was just like, why would I do that? And like he's like,
He's like, I'm your counselor.
Right. You're right. He's like, I'm your teacher. Yeah. The weekend goes by. On like the Sunday or Monday, he waited like a few days. I think the event happened like on a Friday or Saturday. I don't know. He waited like a few days. Then he texts me. I'm radio silent. Like, I have nothing to say. I'm mortified. And so I was like, maybe if I don't say anything, like nothing will happen.
Like he'll forget.
Like, he'll forget. I forgot. I want to forget. And because it was just so like the audacity that I had.
Like when you recollected like that night, were you like, fuck,
yes,
did I really say that?
I was like, fuck my life. Like this is so awkward. I'm like, I have to see him regularly. Like, why did I do that? I had so many shameful thoughts in my head. I was like, I'm just gonna crawl into a hole now. Bye.
Yeah.
But he texted me and was like, hey, I wanted to ask you something. I said, and I'm like, oh yeah, what's up?
Did you know like what he was aiming at? Or
I didn't know, like, because I wasn't going to assume that he remembered.
Yeah.
But like, he was like, so what was that about? Like on, at the Soul Control event, like, why did you ask me that? I was like, I don't know. I was drunk. I was like, I'm sorry.
Damn, you blamed it on the alcohol.
I did. I was like, cue Jamie Foxx.
Shit.
But I did say it was like, I was like, I was drunk. And then I thought he was going to leave it alone. I didn't want to say anything about it. And then like later, he then in the same text, like asked me if I wanted to be his +1 at a wedding. I couldn't attend the wedding, but he asked me.
Oh, wow.
So then I was like, okay.
I see where this
something is brewing.
Yeah.
And I think we just kind of like naturally went from there. Shout out to the tequila.
Yeah, shouts to the tequila up there making couples. You didn't make it to the wedding, but then you knew something was up. So like slowly you guys just got a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And
yeah,
then just went from there.
I knew there was something so like after that, I didn't go to the wedding. I had my very first gig while I was still a student. And he was in Vegas. He drove all the way from Vegas to take me to my gig.
Damn, that guy's a disciplined guy.
Disciplined. And he stayed with me. Like he had a full day of duty at like the military base, drove the whole way from there, stayed up with me like all night, and like went and met my friends. Like he was so cool. And then I was like, okay, like something going on here. And then he bought me a drink. You know, we had a little like grind, a little grinding moment on the dance floor.
Where you're like, oh shit, this is really happening.
Dude, I think we were just like swept up in the moment that like, we're like, yeah, I guess this is happening. But we didn't foresee that it would be what it is. Like, I was open to like whatever it might be.
Yeah,
because
hot
I'm like,
summer shit.
Yeah, like I was just like, okay, cool. But I knew that I liked him so much, like as a person, that I was like kind of afraid that like it wouldn't pan out and like one of us would get hurt. I think more so me. And I was like, I can't do it again. Like I never learn. So yeah, thankfully everything worked out.
Nice. How long has it been now?
We are going on our 3rd year this year. Yeah.
Nice. You guys spent COVID together.
It was like post-COVID, like 2021. So two years? Wait, what are we? 2024?
2023.
Yeah.
Oh, 2024. What the hell?
2020.
Yeah, like I'm going back in time.
I know. I was like, huh? So yeah, we're 2 years going on 3.
Oh, nice. At what point did you realize that he was different? Because obviously he had to break the cycle, right?
He just stood out in my mind, like as a friend in general, like at first interaction. because like at Academy, I don't know if they still do this now, but when I was in season, they make you, as part of your assignment, have like an introductory interview with like each staff member. So like I had at this point like talked to all of them. Jeb was my longest lasting, most free flowing conversation, and I'm like, oh, like this is someone that I can easily click with. Cool. And then I got to see him as a son, like kind of like how he interacts with his mom, how he interacts like with his siblings and just his friends. Like he is so caring, and he never gives 50%. He's 100%er, like in whatever he does. And so I knew like I had found like a friend for life, like initially.
I'm like kind of curious to hear what his side of the story is, because you know,
no, I'm just kidding.
Because it sounds like after that night at apartment that the glass had already shattered, right?
Yeah.
He was like, okay, that was kind of weird, but I think I have
down.
a hint. Yeah, like, I know what's up, right? So therefore, I'm gonna throw in this like wedding thing.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious on his side of the story if he had the same feelings prior to that. You know what I mean? Or was that the trigger?
I feel like we both were like not thinking about it. Like we were just, well, I don't know. That's what I think. But maybe we'll have to ask him.
Yeah.
Because like from a guy's point of view, it could be totally different. Like I'm not sure. Like if I never did that, like if we would be here.
Yeah,
you know?
that's what I'm curious too.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Really shouts to the tequila, huh?
I know. Sometimes drinking is good, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it did, you know, like maybe not physically, but definitely for situations.
Yeah.
For sure. Do you know, now that you guys have been together for 2.5, going to 3 years, do you know at one point, because you guys live together now?
Yeah.
Like at what point you're like, oh, this is actually very serious? Because since everything's so unplanned, it wasn't like, oh, I'm out here looking for someone that I could be with for a long time or live with, you know, or even like a partner.
Yeah.
So at what point where you're like, oh, this is actually way more serious? Because you talk a lot about free flowing.
Yeah.
When did it flow into that?
So like a couple months into us dating, Jeff was like driving. We're going somewhere. I don't know.
He drives a lot, huh?
He drives everywhere. He drives me everywhere. That's why I'm bad with directions.
Passenger princess, huh?
And like out of the blue, like legitimately, we were not talking about this subject at all. He's like, hey, I have a question for you. I'm like, okay, like shoot, like what's up? And he's just like, would you ever move in with me? And I was like, yeah, like I would. And he was so happy. He was like, oh, okay, cool. I was so happy that he asked because like I knew we were like dating, but you know, I don't know where his mind was at.
Yeah, at what level?
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, he must like really like me in order to want to live with me, or at least throw out the idea. I don't know. Like, it's so hard to explain, but I feel like when you like fuck with someone so hard, it's just so hard to not naturally excel to that level.
Yeah.
You know,
because you said a couple months.
Oh, well, we didn't move in after a couple months, but like he asked me a couple months in,
gotcha,
like
gotcha.
if I would. And then my lease was coming up like at my place that I was living at in Irvine. And I was like, man, I really want to get my own place. And then I'm like looking, right? So I'm thinking I'm going to move out on my own. This was like Band LA era.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm looking like for my own apartments. And Jeb was like, I should move out. He's like, I should also move out of like my parents' place. Like, I need my own space.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, like, should we like move in? And then we had like a bit more conversations about it, like if realistically it could like happen. And we were apartment searching and nothing was working out. And then we just like on a whim went to the apartment that we live at now. And we're just like, let's just see, you know, like it looks like above our like range, budget wise. But like, who knows? Literally that day an apartment opened up, like in the budget that we were looking for, and we signed the lease.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
So like, but nothing else was working out. Like we had tried to go and like visit some, and
All
it
the
was
intentional ones didn't work out.
Yeah.
The unintentional one that.
And so I was like, again, another organic like thing. And I just think that with relationships, you, as much as you want to, like, you just can't force it. Like, and I think in my past, I was forcing it with people, you know, like trying to like make the future happen when it's just not compatible, you know, and that wasn't realistic. I was just, caught up in the whatever it was.
Yeah. It's like you're forcing the pieces that don't fit. And you're trying to make them fit, but it's actually better for you to like not do that and let the pieces that fit just like fall in place almost. Because I do see that line, even the way you're talking about your relationship with him, because you guys were platonic and friends first, and that's how things kind of fell into place, right? Do you think, and this is just a question like maybe a little bit outside of your relationship, you know, because nowadays the dating scene is a little different, it feels like there's a lot more, you know, you go through social media to, you know, Instagram's like a dating app, you know, and obviously you have the other dating apps and stuff like that. And everyone's coming into it with like this like intention, right? Like whatever they want. And I'm not saying it's like not organic, because that just seems to be the way things work now, but it seems like it's a lot harder to start like a relationship that just you feel it out, because you're not allowing that. You're kind of like trying to skip everything, right? You're like, oh, I'm going straight into like I want
with
to,
this
with this intention. Like I want to be with you, or maybe not be with you. You know, I want something out of you, right? And I don't even want to get to know you as like a regular person. Without that, I want to get to know you as a person, if you could give that to me or not.
Right. I think it is kind of like formulated that way nowadays with like, you know, we're like in an age of convenience. So like dating has been made convenient in that way.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily set up in a way for you to like really get to know them without that precursor.
Yeah.
You know? So I think it is kind of like shitty that happens nowadays, because I think when you do find someone that you just organically like unexpectedly click with, it's like your mind is like fucking blown. Like it's amazing, you know? So I do have one question for you.
Yeah.
So like, because my parents have been together, and so they've been my example of like a relationship, right? But you having divorced parents, I'm sure this affects you in more ways than one in your relationship dynamic. But do you think that it either like do you think it affects you in a way in your how you approach a relationship now? Do you feel jaded like in any way?
I don't know if I feel jaded. I just don't wear like rose-colored glasses very often, if that makes sense, you know? Like I maybe it's me being jaded, but I always seem to feel like I have to like check myself frequently, because I do have that moment where it's like, oh, free flowing, but then I'm also like, is this realistic? Like, am I being really fully aware of the situation, or I'm just allowing my feelings to take the wheel and steer, right? And with my parents being divorced, like, because, you know, I have siblings, and we all went through that divorce, like, you know, when we were kids. Yeah, but they have very different outlooks than I do. Like, I mentioned in the podcast, like, I don't really care for marriage. It's not really a thing that I want to do. And my brothers and sisters do. I don't really care for kids. Same thing. You know, my brothers and sisters do. So I'm not sure if it's like the divorce that's like affected us. I'm sure it has to a certain degree. You know, I don't know how far back I need to dig to really, like, you know, see where the connection is. But I definitely am more like rational minded about things. And I'm not sure if that's like the healthiest for the kind of people I typically end up with. Because the people that I end up with typically are more in their emotions, and they allow their emotions to kind of dictate what they want and what they say. And while I do have those emotions too, I typically check them to make sure if it's like really realistic.
I feel like it's interesting that you say that you kind of approach things more logically, but I feel like a relationship dynamic is not cerebral.
Yeah,
It's emotional.
I agree.
So therefore, like, it would be hard if you do approach that with like a partner who's leading from like emotions.
Yes,
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
I agree
yeah.
100%, you know, and yeah, it's hard because I haven't really been with anyone who's not like that. And, you know, it's like, I guess one of the first things, reality checks for me was that, you know, I saw my parents as a couple. I saw them as like, they were very much in love, right? And not only were they in love, but they endured a lot of hardships together. I mean, they fled a country during
Oh,
war
yeah.
to be here, going on. You know, my parents came on a boat. You know what I mean? Like we're literally fobs,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is
Fresh
it
off
was-
the boat.
Yeah, fresh off the
Yeah,
boat, like
yeah.
straight up. So it was, you know, to make that journey to leave your family, to have no one but each other, and seemingly be deeply in love, and for it to not work out. That was my first reality check when it came to relationships, that love is not enough.
That's facts.
Yeah.
I think that's something I had to learn on my own because, like, I have a very great example of like love based off my parents' relationship. Granted, they had their own divorces. They found each other. Great. It worked out. But so then I'm like, okay, that could be me, you know?
Yeah.
So I approached every relationship in the sense that, like, this could be my person. This could be my person. And I think with my last one before Jeb, I realized love isn't enough. Like, I think I had an exponential amount of love to give, and nothing, like, no amount was like making it
Would not
stick.
suffice.
Yeah. And I think it's like something you kind of come to terms with, I think, like as you get older, or like
Yeah.
as it happens to you or whatever. But also in the same token, now that I'm on the other spectrum of things, like I can say love is enough. You know, I went from both.
I think to kind of look at it in hindsight now, being in my 30s, I think when I got that reality check, it was because my definition of love is a lot more narrow. It was more like textbook, like romantic novel.
Oh, okay.
You know, like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of love. And, you know, just like happy, right?
Yeah.
And being older now, I realize that that's not the only kind of love, because love, the idea itself is kind of abstract, right?
It
So
definitely
therefore you could perceive it however you want to perceive it. But to me, I think love that gives a relationship like longevity, it comes with the good and the bad. You know, that's when true love is there, when it's put to the test, really.
Truly.
So when you have hardships, that's why I asked you about Jeb, when, you know, you're going through things, you know, like, and you mentioned he read a book, and you're like, they don't really build them like that anymore.
No.
And that's really a testament to that, is that when you're willing to go that far, and someone has like these things that might be holding them back, but you're there to like push them forward.
Yeah.
And not like reluctantly either, because people could do it. You could do that.
Like grudgingly.
Yeah. Like
I feel
resent them,
obligated.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and that doesn't do any good to anyone.
Right.
Like, this person has to be your person, and you really have to want the best for them. And
Right.
even when it's like through hard conversations and hard topics and things that might be draining of your energy, like you might feel like that, but you know it's for the greater good of your relationship, and that's what you want the most. Like, I think that's when you really find like a love that, you know, is gonna stabilize your relationship, where you can be together and like be yourself, you know, because there is the other end too, where it's like, you know, if you're going through something, sometimes you don't want to divulge that to your significant other, because you don't want to
Put it on them.
Put it on them,
Right.
right? Because, you know, it can be taxing.
It's
right?
taxing, like, already.
Yeah.
On your own. So
Exactly.
to like rope somebody into that, you can't expect them to like hang. You know.
Exactly. But at
Yeah.
the same time, that's sometimes what's needed to test if they will hang, if they
Right.
will be around.
Right.
Right? Because you could do that and hold back as much as you can because you don't want to burden them. But then if there's any sign of trouble, all of a sudden they leave, then it's like maybe you should have tested it early on. It's not like you're testing it
100%.
because it's just something that's not real.
Right.
But it's real, but it's like you didn't put it out there into reality for them to understand.
I feel like I saw like this sign, I think it was like in downtown LA, like in Little Tokyo. It says like, what's meant to be will never miss me or something like that. Or like something along those lines.
I saw something like that recently too, I think.
Like it's like it looks like a road sign, but it's like in front of a building. I don't know. Anyway, and I happened to like be with Jeb when I saw it. And I don't know, I'm like very weird with like angel numbers and
Signs
like
and stuff,
signs
yeah.
and stuff because I'm like, dude, help me. Like I need guidance.
Give me something.
Right, give me something. But I think I've also learned to rely on my own intuition. And all those times where I was in a partnership or a dynamic where it was wrong for me, I could feel it in my gut before I could accept it up here in here. And when I guess what I learned is like when you're not in alignment with something, when you're not in flow, that's when you know it's not for you. And when I saw that sign and then I was with him, I was like, it's organic. It makes sense. Like, if it's not for me, then, then it's not for me.
Yeah.
And like, what is for me is going to be the most in alignment with me as like a soul. Yeah, a lot of like life lessons.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I also do believe that like you could, again, like I mentioned, love might not be enough, but I do think that the experiences that you go through is critical for you to build and nurture a love that is enough.
Right.
Because you have to learn, you have to figure out like what didn't fit, what you like, and that's just through experience. And, don't get me wrong. There are people who find it first try.
I know.
You know what I mean? That's cool.
That's
right?
cool.
But I'm not a kind of person where I'm like, oh yeah, like why not me too? Because for one, if it doesn't work out, I'm not one to be like, oh shit, like my life sucks. Like I didn't find it first try. I tried a couple times. Whatever.
Yeah.
I appreciate every relationship for what it is on its own,
Yeah.
good and bad.
Yeah.
Right. Because don't get me wrong, like certain times it sucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Certain times it was great. But I appreciate it because for one, it helped me grow, helped me become the person that I am, and hopefully continue to develop to where I could find a person that's more aligning to what I am. And without it, maybe I wouldn't have found that person. I mean, I still have no one, but that's not the point.
I think that's true though, because like, again, if I could take it all back and not date the people that I dated, I would still, because I had to learn those lessons. Like I had to go through those hardships and moments of transformation, because I on my own would not have learned that. Like I'd be like, oh, this is easy. I'm coasted. I have no reason to learn shit, know? Like what I'm doing is working, obviously. And I think that's just not how life works, like you have to learn the hard way every time. And so I do appreciate those experiences and those people and the time shared. But at the same time, like without them, I wouldn't be this transformed version of myself.
No, 100%. What do you think, now that we're talking about it, what do you think was the biggest lesson that you've learned from all those experiences?
One of the biggest lessons I learned, I think, was like self-love, obviously. I think it's not something that we're taught. And I think with the society that we live in, it almost breeds self-doubt.
Yeah.
And that is just something that I've like dealt with for so long. Even to this day, I'm still learning how to love myself. And I think I'll forever be a student of like these principles, But another thing that I didn't realize was that, like, say I had this list of a partner that I wanted, right? Like, if I were to have that partner now and not go through the hard stuff and not go through the work, I wouldn't even know how to handle that person. because like this person is evolved, you
Yeah.
know, this person is successful, like amazing, is self-aware. But like imagine if I didn't do the work, then like they would be settling for me.
Dating downwards,
Yeah,
basically.
digging downwards. So then what I learned was with the self-love and with the self-development, that was the only way I could reach this partner and the only way I'd be able to handle them and be like a good partner to them. So I think if you are looking for love, like I think it's important to like search within yourself first. Like, am I even the kind of person that can handle the kind of person that I want? And like I definitely wasn't. Like I am like so grateful that I met Jeb when I did because I would have not been this evolved person that would know how to treat him well. And like you kind of have to go through the ringer first.
I agree with that. I always say, like, thank you to all my exes because unfortunately they had to deal with the previous versions of me.
Yeah.
But like the next person's could get the better version of me. Unfortunately, it's
I
like,
know.
damn, I did all those fucking things, and like the next
Yeah.
person gets the better version, you know. But I think that's true, and I don't want to think of it as like something so crude as saying like stepping stones or anything like that because I do think they're very like meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I say this a lot. There's what's the question that you get a lot when you're dating someone, your friend asks you, but you're no longer dating someone, right? What they'll ask you like, oh, how's so and so,
Yeah.
right? And usually, what's the answer when you guys are not together?
We're like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
like they're on their own path, you
Yeah,
know?
like the one that I was getting at, it's like usually people say like, oh, it didn't work out.
Yeah. It didn't
Right?
work
Oh,
out.
we didn't work out. Right. And the way I see things is that as long as you came out of it like a better person, someone that has gained some value through that experience of being in a relationship versus like a worse version of yourself. And then I think it did work out.
It's a plus. It's a win.
It's a win.
Yeah.
Because the way, if we're defining if a relationship works out or not, usually it's if you guys are still together, right? And then there could only be one person that works out. But that seems like you're kind of diminishing all the experiences from everything else that got you there.
Right.
So I want to think of it as like it did work out. We're just not together.
Right. Oh, that's a nice way to think of it.
Yeah, because everyone else is trying to avoid all these. It didn't work out.
Right.
They're trying to get into like this is
Yeah,
my
yeah,
person.
yeah.
This works out, But no, like you got to go through that.
Yeah.
In order for you, I mean, not have to, but most people do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone's gonna get it first try, and that's why I always tell people to like, and this is me being a hypocrite because I need to be more open minded about it. I haven't dated in like 2 years, but like, yeah, just to be more open minded about what's out there. And it's funny that you said that this person that you had like a list that checks off everything, you know, and one of the things that I've come to realize is that I had a list. It wasn't like a crazy list or anything like that, but
Just like ideals though that like
yeah,
you would
certain
want.
ideals like
Yeah.
morals and ethics and stuff like that. But now it's like I allow myself to just not yet, but eventually, when I'm there,
You will.
I will allow myself to just feel people out.
Yeah.
Like, because very much like asking a kid who's like 8 years old, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Asking someone like, oh, what's your ideal person? Like, there's so many people out there. You don't know when it's going to come, what shape, size, form. Like, if it just feels right, just kind of be open to it and
Right.
see what happens.
I think the moment you close yourself off, you're dead before you're in a casket.
Yeah.
Like,
it's very true.
like, so you have to, while you're alive, like, just be open. That's the only way to like have true experiences.
And that in itself is a little hard too, right? Because you could be closed, but not completely closed, right? Like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And that's kind of hard to discern between like, am I really completely open to this idea?
I think
like
if you're half, you're not.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Like if you're on the edge, you might as well just get off. Like you're not about it.
Yeah.
So it's like, and not everything is black and white like that.
No, of course.
But I feel like you have to like be fully vulnerable and open in order for you to receive any type of like experience from it. you know, like just like with me in the podcast, like I had no idea what to expect, but I just knew I'd be like open, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I think again, like the highest vibration is authenticity, and like if you're coming from that place, then like you can't go wrong.
Thank you. That was awesome. I just want to say thank you, Lori, for coming through and really just being transparent and just so bubbly about everything and
Thank
just
you.
sharing her story. Let the audience know where they can find you.
So I'm on Instagram. My tag is at Lori, LORILUVSIC. I forgot to talk about the rebrand.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Lori Luvsic. And then same goes on my SoundCloud where I post like most of my mixes and my edits and blends. So that's going to be soundcloud.com/Lori Luvsic, same spelling. And then I am also involved in a radio show called Repeat Radio, where we post like weekly mixes. And then we're trying to like grow that as well. But I am like 1 out of 5. So 1 out of 5 or 6. So that's going to be at Repeat Radio.
Nice. But I just want to say thank you to our audience for watching all the way through. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, live fast,
Eat ass.